Stop right there. You've been acting suspicious near this block.
I work here. This is my office. You're mistaken.
Hands against the wall. Now.
I am an attorney. Check your dispatch before you escalate this.
She matches the description. Detain her.
Attorney Vanessa Hayes adjusted her blazer as she walked down the polished hallway of her high-rise law office, the soft click of her heels echoing against the marble floors. At 52, she carried herself with the calm authority that came from decades of navigating the toughest legal battles in the country. A graduate of Columbia Law School, Vanessa had spent her career championing civil rights, labor law, and corporate compliance, earning a reputation as both a brilliant strategist and a fearless advocate. Her office walls were lined with awards, framed articles, and photos with judges and lawmakers, a testament to her decades of meticulous work and unshakable credibility. Outside, the street was bustling but orderly, a typical downtown morning in the city. Shiny sedans and SUVs glided past, pedestrians hurried along the sidewalks, and sunlight bounced off the glass facades of towering office buildings. On the curb in front of Vanessa's office, her black BMW X7 gleamed in the morning light, freshly washed and parked legally. She had purchased the car recently as a reward for a major class action victory, a symbol of years of dedication and perseverance. It was a luxury vehicle, yes, but one any high-earning professional could afford, especially in a district filled with polished executives and attorneys like herself. Vanessa had just returned from a client meeting across town. Her mind was still running through the closing arguments she had delivered earlier in the week, preparing for an upcoming negotiation that could impact thousands of people. She unlocked the BMW and started walking toward the front entrance of her office, briefcase in hand, expecting nothing more than a routine morning of filings, calls, and client consultations. There was a calm precision in her step, an elegance in her posture that conveyed confidence, competence, and authority. What she could not have known was that a single, biased assumption would transform this ordinary morning into a public spectacle of aggression and discrimination. Officer Mark Sullivan, known in internal reports for his overzealous approach to suspicious behavior, had already parked his cruiser a few meters away. His gaze fixated on Vanessa's car as soon as it rolled into the curb. The vehicle, a black luxury SUV, had triggered in his mind a false narrative. The assumption that a black woman driving an expensive car in this district must be up to something illegal. As Vanessa's steps echoed across the sidewalk, she remained unaware of the officer approaching from behind. Sullivan's stride was deliberate, his posture tense and rigid. His hand hovered near his belt, eyes scanning the vehicle, the briefcase, and Vanessa herself, all while ignoring the clear legality of her actions. He had not verified any license plate information. He had not checked her identity. For him, the assumption alone sufficed. Vanessa reached the entrance of her office building, adjusting her briefcase strap over her shoulder. She greeted the security staff politely, exchanging a few words about the morning schedule. She had worked here for over a decade, known by colleagues and receptionists alike for her calm demeanor and meticulous professionalism. The street outside was lined with reflective windows and quiet lobbies, a place she considered safe. Yet, in the span of moments, the routine would shatter. Sullivan's approach closed the distance rapidly. He stepped into her path, blocking the entrance, his voice loud and commanding. Vanessa's eyes lifted slightly, registering the uniformed figure directly in front of her, body language bristling with hostility. He demanded, "Stop right there. You've been acting suspicious near this block." Vanessa paused, maintaining composure, and responded evenly, "I work here. This is my office. You're mistaken." Her tone carried authority, her voice projecting confidence and calm, a sharp contrast to Sullivan's aggressive demeanor. Pedestrians began to glance toward the confrontation, noticing the tension rising like a static charge in the morning air. The office lobby behind Vanessa remained open, the polished floors reflecting the sunlight, yet outside, an invisible spotlight now focused on her. She was a black attorney in a district she knew well, a respected professional performing her daily routine, yet the assumptions of a single officer transformed her environment into a stage for confrontation. Officer Mark Sullivan took a deliberate step closer, his eyes locked on Vanessa Hayes with a rigidity that made the air feel charged. The body cam from the second officer, stationed slightly to the side, captured the entire scene with a fisheye distortion that emphasized both the looming presence of Sullivan and Vanessa's composed posture. The polished black BMW reflected the sunlight, glinting like a spotlight on the unfolding confrontation. Sullivan's voice broke the calm morning hum, sharp and commanding. "Step away from the building. Hands where I can see them. You've been acting suspicious." His tone carried the weight of authority, but it was laced with unfounded assumption. There had been no report, no evidence, no warning. Only the perception of suspicious behavior tied entirely to Vanessa's race and the fact she drove a luxury SUV. Vanessa froze for a moment, processing the sudden escalation, then raised her hands slowly, maintaining a professional and controlled demeanor. "I'm an attorney. I work here. This is my office, my car." "You're mistaken," she said firmly, her voice calm but insistent. Her words were precise, reflecting years of courtroom experience, yet Sullivan's preconceptions rendered them irrelevant. Ignoring her explanation, Sullivan continued, his tone escalating into aggression. "Hands on the hood now," I said. "Step away from the building." His hand hovered near his sidearm, a subtle intimidation tactic that amplified the threat without any legal basis. The second officer's body cam tracked the scene in real time, showing the tension radiating between the two. Vanessa's composed professionalism contrasted sharply with Sullivan's aggressive stance. Vanessa slowly approached the car, her body language deliberate but calm. She kept her hands visible, maintaining eye contact with Sullivan and the camera. "You need to verify my identity with dispatch before escalating. I am licensed and authorized to be here. Detaining me without cause is unlawful." Each word was measured, authoritative, and deliberate, a legal assertion of her rights. Sullivan's eyes narrowed, a flicker of impatience crossing his face. "I don't care. You match the description. Don't argue, just comply." His words dripped with the arrogance of assumed authority, and the implicit racial bias in his judgment was unmistakable. He ignored her identification, her credentials, and the clear fact that she had every right to be there. From the bodycam's perspective, the scene captured the full driveway, including the polished building entrance, the BMW, and Vanessa's firm stance. Her briefcase remained in her left hand, symbolizing her professional identity, while her right hand hovered near her side as she subtly asserted presence without aggression. Pedestrians across the street and nearby office staff paused, noticing the unfolding tension but powerless to intervene. Sullivan's aggression escalated further. "Step back. You're being detained for suspicious behavior." His command carried an air of finality, as though his assumptions overrode all legality. Vanessa's calm demeanor did not waver, but her mind raced through the implications. She had trained for courtroom battles, but never had she expected to be confronted on the basis of race and superficial assumptions during a normal workday. The body cam captured every micro-expression, Vanessa's eyes steady and unwavering, lips pressed together in controlled defiance, while Sullivan's face betrayed frustration and the rigid certainty of someone who believed suspicion justified immediate action. His hand moved toward her vehicle, not for safety, but for control, an attempt to assert dominance over someone already clearly non-threatening. Vanessa raised her voice, projecting a combination of authority and caution. "Officer, you are detaining the wrong person. I am a licensed attorney. You have no grounds for this stop." Each word highlighted the absurdity of the situation, emphasizing the contrast between her calm professionalism and Sullivan's unwarranted hostility. In this tense back and forth, the bodycam captured a critical detail: the lack of verification or backup support from Sullivan beyond basic presence, underscoring the racial profiling element. The camera angle ensured both their faces were fully visible, allowing viewers to witness the stark power imbalance. A black professional asserting rights and composure against a biased officer insisting on control. The scene escalates visually and verbally, setting the stage for systemic implications. The officer's behavior, though seemingly isolated, mirrors larger patterns of racial profiling. Vanessa's calm, strategic response begins to expose the injustice, while Sullivan's refusal to acknowledge evidence or legality solidifies his role as the aggressor. Vanessa Hayes remained composed, her posture relaxed but deliberate, hands clearly visible in front of her. The body cam from the second officer captured every nuance, the slight tilt of her head, the measured inflection in her voice, the unwavering gaze directed at Officer Mark Sullivan. Despite the escalating aggression, she spoke with clarity and authority. "Officer Sullivan, I am an attorney. I work here. This is my office and my vehicle. You are detaining the wrong person," she stated firmly, her voice calm, yet commanding. Her words cut through the tension like a scalpel, establishing credibility and highlighting the absurdity of the confrontation. Sullivan, however, barely acknowledged her reasoning, his eyes flicking toward the BMW, as though the car alone justified his suspicion. He barked another command. "Step back and place your hands on the hood," I said now. His tone attempted to impose dominance, but Vanessa did not flinch. Instead, she shifted slightly, keeping her movements deliberate and slow. "Officer, you need to verify my identity through dispatch. Detaining me without cause is unlawful and a violation of my rights," she continued, her professional demeanor contrasting starkly with Sullivan's aggression. The camera captured the subtle expressions of tension on Sullivan's face, frustration, disbelief, and impatience, while Vanessa's calm, controlled presence projected authority and reason. Vanessa's composure was more than mere self-control. It was a strategic display of professionalism and credibility. She maintained eye contact with the camera, ensuring viewers could see her unwavering stance. Every gesture, adjusting her briefcase, subtly signaling her location near the vehicle, and speaking clearly, reinforced her rationality and legal standing. The bodycam's fisheye lens amplified this contrast, showing her fully in frame while Sullivan's looming figure attempted to dominate the scene. "You are detaining an innocent professional based solely on assumptions about my race and my vehicle," Vanessa added, her voice calm but assertive. "Please check dispatch before escalating this further." Her words emphasized the racial bias inherent in the encounter without raising her voice unnecessarily. Sullivan's attempts to intimidate, hand movements toward his belt, leaning closer, sharp commands, were met with measured restraint. Vanessa's response communicated one simple truth. She was prepared, composed, and unwilling to be treated unjustly. The bodycam captured every second of this dynamic, allowing viewers to witness the moral and professional contrast between victim and aggressor. Officer Mark Sullivan's patience had long since evaporated. His gestures grew more aggressive, hands on his belt, pacing slightly, voice rising. Vanessa Hayes remained calm, professional, and fully aware of the bodycam recording every movement. She continued to repeat her identity and credentials. "I am an attorney licensed in this state, officer. Detaining me without cause is unlawful. Please verify my information with dispatch before proceeding." Her tone was calm but firm, a clear assertion of authority and legal knowledge. Despite her repeated clarifications, Sullivan persisted. "I've been given a description. You fit it. Hands on the car now." His words were sharp, unyielding, and indicative of the implicit racial bias that had fueled the stop from the beginning. The camera captured the tension, Sullivan looming over Vanessa, whose composure and measured movements only accentuated the absurdity and aggression of the officer's approach. The escalation drew the attention of backup officers. 2 additional officers arrived in separate vehicles. One remained on the periphery, standing alert but silent, the bodycam capturing only their presence as social proof of authority. The second remained stationary, observing the interaction through the lens, providing the primary POV for the audience. The added presence did nothing to de-escalate Sullivan's behavior. Instead, it highlighted a disturbing pattern: racial bias unchallenged, authority unchecked. Vanessa's calm demeanor was a stark contrast to the chaotic overreach of the officers. She requested verification repeatedly, citing her professional credentials. "I am happy to cooperate, but you must confirm my identity through dispatch. I am an attorney and a legal professional. There is no justification for this escalation." Sullivan, frustrated, muttered to himself and ignored her statements, focusing solely on his perception of threat. Meanwhile, dispatch verification, which could have resolved the situation immediately, was delayed or ignored. The bodycam caught the tense pauses, the waiting, the growing discomfort of the observing officer. Internal systemic failures became apparent. Supervisors had previously received complaints against Sullivan for racial profiling, yet no effective corrective action had been taken. Files indicated repeated incidents of bias, yet departmental oversight failed to intervene. Vanessa's calm, rational presence exposed not just an individual lapse, but an institutional pattern of neglect and misconduct. Sullivan's aggression continued to escalate. He reached for handcuffs, signaling intent to forcibly detain Vanessa. "Step back, or I will detain you for resisting." His voice reverberated in the quiet neighborhood, contrasting sharply with Vanessa's measured response. "Officer, I am standing still. I am not resisting. You are detaining me without probable cause, which is illegal." The bodycam lens captured the visual inequity of the situation. Vanessa, mid-40s, professional attire, briefcase in hand, composed and articulate, stood her ground as Sullivan's actions became increasingly unjustifiable. The camera revealed subtle details: Sullivan's tense jaw, the aggressive flare of his nostrils, and the tight grip on his handcuffs. Every movement spoke of overreach, while Vanessa's posture, gaze, and controlled gestures broadcast credibility and calm authority. This segment highlighted the systemic failure clearly. Complaints against Sullivan were documented but ignored. Internal audits and review boards had noted patterns of racial bias in traffic stops and detentions, but officers like Sullivan remained in active duty without retraining. The contrast between Vanessa's professionalism and Sullivan's unchecked aggression exemplified how structural negligence allowed racial profiling to persist. Witnesses, though not verbally intervening, documented the incident on personal devices. The bodycam preserved the confrontation for accountability, revealing that even in the presence of multiple officers, racial bias went unchallenged. The slow pacing of the camera emphasized Sullivan's looming presence and Vanessa's controlled stance, heightening viewer tension while establishing the factual, evidence-driven narrative. The moment Vanessa Hayes was released from the unlawful detention, she immediately pivoted from personal endurance to strategic action. Her calm demeanor remained, but her mind was focused on accountability and systemic change. She meticulously documented the encounter, beginning with the bodycam footage from the secondary officer, which clearly captured Officer Mark Sullivan's aggressive, biased behavior, her own controlled responses, and the unmistakable overreach of authority. Every frame served as evidence, not just of individual misconduct, but of systemic negligence that allowed racial profiling to persist unchecked. Vanessa's first step was formal complaint filing. She drafted a detailed report addressed to the city police department, recounting the incident with precision: timestamps, dialogue, descriptions of officer behavior, and references to her professional credentials as a licensed attorney. She cited the violation of her constitutional rights under the Fourth Amendment, emphasizing the illegal detention without probable cause, and framed the broader implications in the context of the 14th Amendment, noting the equal protection violations evident in Sullivan's racially biased assumptions. Her report was concise but thorough, designed to leave no room for dismissal. Parallel to the internal complaint, Vanessa reached out to civil rights attorneys renowned for handling police misconduct cases. She provided them with a full dossier: the bodycam footage, her written statements, timestamps, witness videos, and prior documented complaints against Sullivan. The attorneys recognized immediately that this case was not merely about one officer's poor judgment. It exemplified a systemic failure that endangered citizens and violated constitutional protections. They began preparing a lawsuit naming both Officer Sullivan and the city police department, seeking redress for civil rights violations, emotional distress, and reputational damage. The legal strategy was deliberate and multifaceted. Vanessa's team emphasized the officer's repeated disregard for verification, his escalation despite clear evidence of her identity, and the presence of bodycam footage proving her calm compliance. They highlighted the failure of departmental oversight, pointing to prior complaints in Sullivan's personnel file and the lack of corrective action by supervisors. This established a pattern of institutional negligence, strengthening the argument for punitive damages. Every element of the case underscored that racial profiling was not incidental, but structural, an abuse of power that demanded accountability. Media attention followed swiftly. Local news outlets obtained the bodycam footage and reports, broadcasting the story widely. The narrative was clear: a respected black attorney, performing ordinary daily activities, was unlawfully detained in her own neighborhood by a police officer operating with implicit racial bias. Headlines emphasized both her professional stature and the egregious misconduct. Black attorney detained for suspicious behavior in own driveway, city under fire. Social media amplified the outrage, with viewers across the country sharing the footage, commenting on the stark contrast between Vanessa's composure and Sullivan's aggressive overreach. Public discourse framed the incident not as an isolated lapse, but as a reflection of broader societal patterns in policing and race. The city administration initially attempted to downplay the incident. Internal statements referred to it as a routine check and miscommunication. However, the indisputable bodycam evidence, combined with witness recordings and Vanessa's detailed professional reporting, forced a public reckoning. Civil rights organizations issued statements condemning the detention, urging systemic reforms, and supporting the lawsuit. The pressure mounted, signaling to the city that dismissing the case could result in both legal and reputational catastrophe. The legal process unfolded in stages. Discovery revealed Sullivan's prior complaints, departmental memos about traffic stops disproportionately targeting black residents, and emails demonstrating supervisory awareness of repeated misconduct. The attorneys highlighted these internal documents to the jury, emphasizing that Vanessa's detention was predictable, preventable, and part of a recurring pattern of racial bias. Courtroom visuals incorporated bodycam excerpts, transcripts of the officers' dialogue, and comparative statistics of racial profiling within the department. Vanessa's calm, professional demeanor in these recordings served as a continuous emotional anchor for jurors, reinforcing the disparity between her responsible conduct and the officers' unchecked aggression. Public engagement remained high. Social media campaigns, opinion pieces, and televised interviews framed Vanessa's experience as emblematic of systemic racial profiling, particularly against black professionals. The narrative resonated with audiences in the US, UK, and Canada, drawing attention to broader implications. If a licensed attorney could be treated this way in a quiet, upscale neighborhood, the vulnerability of ordinary citizens, especially black individuals, was even more acute. Vanessa's measured, articulate responses contrasted sharply with the officer's bias-driven escalation, evoking empathy, outrage, and a demand for accountability. Ultimately, the combination of undeniable video evidence, legal strategy rooted in constitutional law, and overwhelming public scrutiny created an environment where justice was inevitable. The lawsuit demanded both punitive and compensatory damages, aiming to hold the officer accountable personally and compel the city to implement meaningful reforms. The documentation emphasized systemic change, mandatory anti-bias training, review of prior complaints, and oversight measures designed to prevent recurrence. Vanessa's narrative became a blueprint for how civil rights could be defended using calm, strategic, and legally grounded approaches, demonstrating that patience and professionalism could confront both individual misconduct and structural failure. After months of preparation, depositions, and courtroom hearings, Vanessa Hayes finally faced the jury. The tension in the federal courtroom was palpable. The walls, lined with solemn wood panels, reflected the gravity of the case. Racial profiling, abuse of authority, and civil rights violations all on trial. From the first moment, the prosecution laid out a clear narrative, pairing bodycam footage with Vanessa's meticulous documentation to show the stark contrast between her calm, professional conduct and Officer Mark Sullivan's aggressive, racially biased behavior. The courtroom was filled with a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. Colleagues from the legal community, civil rights advocates, and concerned citizens followed every word. Vanessa's composed testimony emphasized facts, her identity as a licensed attorney, her actions as lawful and compliant, and the repeated disregard by Officer Sullivan for verification. She described the fear, humiliation, and frustration she experienced during the unlawful detention, but her delivery remained calm, firm, and authoritative. Every pause, every measured word highlighted her credibility. The defense attempted to paint Sullivan's actions as a routine stop, a simple misidentification. Yet the bodycam footage, paired with Vanessa's calm rebuttals and the undeniable evidence of prior complaints against Sullivan, rendered these arguments hollow. Jurors could see the officer ignoring protocols, escalating unnecessarily, and targeting Vanessa based on implicit racial bias. The repeated insistence on verification, her professional status, and the clear lack of probable cause left little room for doubt. After deliberations, the jury returned a unanimous verdict. Officer Sullivan was found personally liable for violating Vanessa's civil rights, and the city was held accountable for systemic negligence that allowed such misconduct to persist. The court awarded Vanessa Hayes $2.3 million in damages, reflecting both the emotional toll and the broader societal implications of racial profiling. Additionally, the judgment mandated departmental reforms, implementation of anti-bias training, review of prior complaints, and stronger supervisory oversight to prevent future incidents. Vanessa's response in court was measured, yet deeply emotional. She expressed gratitude for the justice served, but emphasized that the ruling represented more than her individual case. It was a reaffirmation that racial profiling and abuse of authority could not go unchecked. The courtroom audience, visibly moved, recognized the broader significance. The case set a precedent for accountability, signaling to law enforcement agencies nationwide that civil rights violations carried real consequences. The city, facing public scrutiny, implemented immediate reforms. Officer Sullivan was terminated, his career effectively ended, and internal reviews began across multiple precincts to ensure compliance with anti-bias policies. Media coverage highlighted the historic payout, the systemic lessons learned, and Vanessa Hayes' unwavering professionalism. The $2.3 million settlement was not just compensation, it was a statement. Unlawful detentions, particularly those driven by racial bias, would no longer be tolerated without consequence. In the weeks following the verdict, Vanessa Hayes returned to her daily life, but the impact of the case extended far beyond her own personal experience. The $2.3 million settlement provided her with financial restitution, yet more importantly, it served as a powerful symbol of accountability, a message that no one, regardless of race or status, should be subjected to unlawful detention or targeted due to bias. Vanessa used the settlement strategically, supporting organizations that assist victims of police misconduct, fund legal advocacy for civil rights, and promote systemic reform in law enforcement. The city, now under public scrutiny, implemented tangible reforms. Officers across departments underwent mandatory anti-bias and de-escalation training, and complaint reporting systems were revised to prevent the dismissal of racial profiling allegations. Officer Mark Sullivan's termination became a cautionary tale within the force, reinforcing that abuse of authority carries not just legal consequences, but career-ending ramifications. Policies were updated to require verification before detaining individuals, particularly in cases involving minorities or high-profile professionals. Vanessa's case, widely covered by national media, created a ripple effect, prompting discussions in law schools, community forums, and civil rights organizations about systemic inequities in policing. For the public, Vanessa Hayes' ordeal became a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities faced by everyday citizens. The moral was clear. If a highly respected attorney could be detained unlawfully in her own neighborhood, any Black or marginalized person could face similar prejudice. The story emphasized vigilance, advocacy, and the importance of asserting one's rights while documenting encounters with law enforcement. Vanessa's calm, strategic response highlighted the effectiveness of measured professionalism combined with assertive legal action. From a societal perspective, the case offered a dual takeaway: the individual cost of racial profiling and the systemic change achievable through legal accountability. Viewers are left reflecting on the balance of power, the role of evidence in exposing misconduct, and the necessity of challenging institutional failures. The narrative closes on a hopeful, yet cautionary note. Justice is possible, but only through persistence, courage, and the willingness to confront abuse directly.